Hi, everyone. Welcome to Go Publish Yourself, an Ingram Spark podcast. Hi, I'm Robin Cutler, the director of Ingram Spark.
And I'm Justine Bilo, and I manage our author acquisitions program.
Hi, Justine. It's so great to be again here with you today. Did I say that wrong?
Yeah, but we're going to let it slide, Robin.
Anyway, we've had a little bit too much holiday cheer, I think, the last couple of days, because we're recording this right before the Christmas holidays 2017.
Which is our busy time here
Yes,
at
we've
Ingram.
been very, very busy this time of year, which is a really great, great thing. But today we're really happy to talk to you about a topic that a lot of you have come and talked to us about how to sell your book into bookstores.
Yeah, and this is a question we get most often when we're on the road. How do I see my book as an author on a bookshelf?
You know, I feel like this is still one of the primary goals for most authors, don't you think, Justine?
Oh, yeah, it's a thrill. I get excited when I go to a bookstore and see my author's books on shelves.
I get excited when I see any Ingram Spark author's book on a shelf.
Oh,
In fact,
yeah.
I will go into airport stores sometime, and I actually have seen some of our authors' titles in an airport shop.
How cool.
And I'm just so thrilled every time I see that. It's just so fantastic. So we're really, really lucky to have, as part of the Ingram Spark team, one of the authorities within Ingram about booksellers and about bookstore sales. And this person is Josh Floyd. He is the manager of global sales for Ingram Spark. So welcome, Josh.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Justine. Thank you both for having me today.
Thanks
Looking
for
forward to
coming
this.
Yeah, this, like I say, is a hot topic among booksellers. So, Josh, I know that you work with a lot of booksellers, especially in the U.S. You're one of the key people that speaks at a lot of bookselling conferences to talk to booksellers about what they're doing to support indie authors. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So you're exactly correct. I do quite a bit of travels and quite a bit of events where I'm actually facing bookstores and booksellers and also with independent authors mixed into the groups. One of the best things that I hear from independent bookstores is their enthusiasm and excitement and openness to continually growing and curating their collections. And part of doing that includes these independent titles that are being published outside of traditional methods.
You know, I just love to hear that because, you know, when we started Ingram Spark about 5 years ago, I think the standing comment that we would hear would be, you know, don't even mess with indie bookstores. It's not worth your time. But, you know, I know that you kind of have a whole different attitude about that.
I do, actually. I have a background as an Ingram bookstore rep, so I have traveled the country selling books to independent bookstores all the way from South Carolina to the Keys to Kansas City out to New Mexico. And everywhere in between, you're going to find that every one of these independent bookstores are niche. They're indie in their own right. But there used to be a feeling amongst them all. There was a shared feeling of these POD books or these self-published books. You would see a little bit of resentment or spite when the books owner or the bookstore owner or the bookseller would be talking about these books. Well, that was 5-6 years ago. With the progression of Ingram Spark and the way that we all have continued to add to this service and the way these authors are coming in and bringing in such great content, it has started to change the mind of bookstores and booksellers.
So what actually did change their minds about this? Was it just the content or what happened to make this shift?
I would say that the increase in content, or the quality of content is getting better.
Yeah, I agree with
So,
that.
and the quality of production is getting better. Even look at Lightning Source and Ingram Spark. The printing procedures and methods that we have used have changed over time and have gotten better and better with each passing year.
Yeah.
So the better the quality of book, physical quality of the book, aligned with the better quality of content, really opens the door for these booksellers to try out some of these books where they normally wouldn't have tried them before.
Huh, that's really interesting. So if you're approaching a bookstore to get your book onto a shelf, what are the do's and don'ts for an author in that arena?
That's a really good question, as that's something that bookstore owners consistently discuss with me is the methods of approach that independent authors and independent publishers use when they come into the stores to sell their books. I'll go ahead and tell you first and foremost, if your book's a top seller at Amazon, or you have a great Amazon history or sell sheet, that's great and that's very good, but that's not important to the bookstore.
In fact, people should realize that Amazon is like the direct competitor to an indie bookseller, and they need to recognize that.
That's absolutely correct. And so if you've ever had the experience as an author out there pitching or marketing your title to an independent bookstore, and you walk in and you don't understand any of the pushback or resentment you may get by announcing some of these Amazon accomplishments you have, that's the very reason is your number one competitors who you're using as your example.
So instead of using Amazon, what should they do?
What an author would really want to do is first know their local independent bookstores. So if you are actually going to be out in your area talking to your independent bookstore in town, you should definitely be a customer of that bookstore before you ever go in and pitch your title. They should know you as a local patron before they know you as a local author that has books. Your book should come up in conversation more with the bookstore owner who already knows you, as opposed to you pitching the book to
I
them.
totally agree with that. Like I think it's kind of rude to walk into a bookstore that you've never been into before without kind of understanding, that you should, hopefully shop there at that local bookseller instead of just automatically buying your books from Amazon.
Yeah, you've got to build that relationship.
Absolutely. And even if it's not your local bookstore, if it's an independent bookstore that may be a state over or within your region that you're going to, then you feel that your content fits that bookstore. And that's one of the most important things that a bookstore is going to look at, or a book buyer is going to look at a store, is, does your content fit our demographic? Can we sell this book if we invest our money in bringing it into the shelves? So that's one of the first things to be aware of. But also, as you're saying, be a customer of your local store. Send customers to the bookstores that you want to send your book in.
Yeah.
So if I want to be in Square Books in Oxford, Mississippi, and I go cold calling, I'm going to have a much harder time getting my book in, as opposed to if 5, 10, 15 people had already been to that store and special ordered my title. Then when I come across into the store, they say, hey, we recognize you, we recognize your book. We actually have some sales. We'd love to bring it in.
It's kind of like some guerrilla marketing there, sending people to the store to special order your book.
Absolutely. And I've heard Kwame Alexander at Winter Institute.
I love Kwame.
He's great. He gives a great speech about getting into the market and getting into the industry when he first started. And that's what he did. I mean, when he wanted his book in Chicago, he called everybody he knew in Chicago to go to a certain bookstore and order his book. And then when he followed up with that bookstore, they already knew his book, and it was a much easier sell because they already had a track record of selling that title in the store.
Yes. And, I kind of blame us as consumers. We all are enamored, I guess, of Amazon. They make it so easy to order, anything. But we're kind of to blame that these great indie bookstores have kind of, been in decline. But I can tell you from an Ingram perspective, we're opening more bookstores these days than we're closing. Isn't that true, Josh?
That is true. For every bookstore that you see closing, there's another one or two that is opening that's just not getting the press or the publicity. And you actually see a lot of the new generation of bookstore owners taking over. And with this new generation of bookstore owners, they're more open to trying new ideas and adapting, because bookstores have been around for as long as they have because of their tenacity and their ability to adapt and change with the market. So some of the things that we're seeing here at Ingram Spark, not only are bookstores building programs to more robustly support their local author community, but they're also building programs to print and publish titles themselves, because they understand that creating content specific to a region is what's going to sell that product. And so we have bookstores that are publishing, printing, and even offering publishing services to local communities.
So they're becoming like the local hub for their publishing community?
That is exactly correct. They are becoming a place where a local author can go in, get their books formatted, get their books set up for print, and even print through the store.
Wow.
And Ingram Spark is really helping to drive that. And especially through your efforts, Josh.
That's exactly correct. So a lot of my efforts are spent working with bookstores and helping them implement programs such as these that we're talking about, And whether it's implementing a printing publishing program for local authors, I also talk with stores who want to offer more education. So there's plenty of stores who are going to start offering author education seminars to help learn some of these tricks and tools that we're talking about today, but actually learning directly from the store. So I highly recommend, if you're interested in learning more about selling books to bookstores, go to your local independent bookstore, check their website, see if they have author programs, because you will find that a lot of these folks will bring in industry specialists like Justine, Robin, and myself to talk directly to customers on a given Saturday. So it's definitely worth investigating.
Let's talk a little bit about IndieBound, because I believe that probably not a lot of our listeners know what IndieBound is. So, Justine, can you talk about that, or Josh?
Absolutely. So IndieBound is an option to put down in your marketing piece. So when you're making your marketing materials, or you're making your title sales sheet, or any of this information you're going to be using to present your book to other folks, such as a bookstore or a library, you always are going to list Amazon as a place to buy your book. Amazon doesn't need help having traffic driven to their site. They've got that covered. Bookstores, on the other hand, would highly appreciate the opportunity to have traffic driven to their store. So with IndieBound, when you make that as a reference point of somewhere to buy your book and your material, a bookstore knows that, hey, you're actually representing local independents too, because as a reader, I can go to the IndieBound website, purchase a book, and even choose the bookstore I would like to credit with that purchase. So therefore, I am wholeheartedly supporting the independent bookstores by giving the option to readers to purchase directly from them.
So it's indiebound.org, is that right?
I believe that's
Yes.
the correct address.
And you can put in, to follow up with what Josh was just saying, you can put in like a zip code, and it will pull up all of the independent bookstores that relate to that zip code. So you can direct or find, those booksellers in that area.
Yeah, and if they don't have your book on the shelf, they can absolutely order it for you, or you can buy it through the website. The other great thing about IndieBound is that they do pre